Well, it started from a very small town. I was born in Chandosi, which is near Sambhal and Moradabad, and my father was an engineer in railways. So
Okay.
uh, we studied wherever he got transferred or we got posted. So I studied at Gorakhpur, studied at SM College in Chandosi, and then did my intermediate at Government Intermediate College in Bareilly. And then my university education was at Gorakhpur. Then after my MSc in chemistry, I joined research to do my PhD in medicinal organic chemistry.
Okay.
And very typical of the dream in late 60s and 70s, I thought I'll finish my PhD, get a postdoctoral fellowship, move on to US and work in some science in research lab, and my life is done. In between, what happened was that I picked up a job with Doon School, and I started enjoying that job so much. There were expeditions, there were talking to children, they were interacting. It was a total community life. And I thought it is much better to be here than in a research lab or in a college. So from Doon School, then I moved on to Kabul in Afghanistan, did a stint there, came back to Doon School, and then went off to do a stint in Nigeria and back to Mayo College to teach chemistry. So it has been an interesting journey, and part of this movement is because I felt at that point of time that unless you have gray hair, you will not be taken seriously. And so I came back to Mayo College, and then I picked up this job as principal of Tashi Namgyal Academy. I was just 39 then, and it was quite a place. It was like a diplomatic assignment, and you worked with Chief Minister. The population was so small, just 3 lakhs was the total population of Sikkim then. So I was there for about 6-7 years, and then moved on for a short stint at YPS Patiala, and then thankfully Mayo College offered me the headship.
Okay.
Every school passes through a high and then a low in its history. So at that point of time, Mayo College was passing through a low point. And that was the reason that I got Mayo College, frankly. And then I worked hard for about 12-13 years. And by the time we left it, it was one of the best 2 schools among all the ratings then in India. And the results from 60-65% batch average to had gone on to about 82-83% batch average. And we were doing excellently in sports. Anyway, at that point of time, I was offered to set up a new school in Noida. And this is Genesis Global School. And I was happy to have taken it. It was a very complex school. It had residence, it had PYP program from International Baccalaureate up to grade 5, then from 6 to 10, it had IGCSE and part CBSE. And in the international wing, it also had IB. In the nationals wing, it had CBSE from grade 6 to grade 12. And it was a very happy situation when I left almost 200 children, boys and girls in the boarding, and the school was and is doing excellently. So this has been a journey from a small town in Chandosi to heading Mayo College and being able to establish a school. I feel quite satisfied that my association with IPSC and Round Square keeps me occupied. I'm honorary member of both. And actually, it's interesting why I thought of Round Square. When I went to Mayo College, I realized that the children were not doing any manual labor, or there was no great respect or dignity for manual labor. They were, because of the erstwhile ruling family influence, they were being served food on the table by the bearers or waiters. So they were not used to doing something with hand. And my main idea was how to inculcate them, or how to get them into social service. And so at Mayo, when we took Round Square, and they went for social service project, and when they saw the Firang children carrying bricks on their head and mortar on their head, so they also started doing that. So it was a cultural difference that it made.
Sir, as chemistry is a very serious subject and a lot of preparation is required, passion is required, how was the transition from chemistry to administration was there, sir, when you became the head of Mayo College?
Let me start with how was the transition from the university and research lab to school teaching. It was, I can tell you, it was so difficult, because Doon School was one of the first of its kind, which was totally experiential. Right. Everything mentioned in the syllabus, children were supposed to do it, and teacher was supposed to demonstrate. And the kind of schooling that I have had in UP, there are hardly any experiments shown. And in the university, it is not a great secret that the lab assistant you tip, and he will tell you which salt you have for analysis. So nobody does the practical so seriously, and this is one of the reasons why India lags so much behind in innovation. So anyway, that's another story. And so when I had to do these experiments myself, then I realized that working for PhD for 2 years, and you're doing your MSc and BSc, you did not have enough idea about experimentation. You had to restart. So I had to relearn, and those first 3-4 years, I remember I would work till 12 o'clock at night to be able to take up class next morning. And again, there will be so many pitfalls while you are doing experiment. You're expecting a certain result, and the result would be quite different. So it has been a very interesting journey there. When I got into administration, obviously, I still remember I drove in my own car with a class 10 boy who was free those days. And with him, I drove from Ajmer to Gangtok. And I had never driven in the hills. So that was my first time straight into the hills. And I had first time in my life, I had worked in so many countries and so many places. This is the first time in my life I had butterflies in my stomach, not knowing what I was expected to do as a principal, how to sit down, though my former principal, Mr. H.L. Dutt, had given me a good 2-hour session as to what I should do and what I was expected to do and what SOPs are and all that. But real life is quite different than what you are trained for. I hope that today's we can do something about training the new principals which are, from teacher are moving into the administrative roles.
Mr. Sharma has got one more expertise, very strong he's in that. He's known as a turnaround consultant for schools. You give him a school that is not doing well, he can establish the school very nicely. And he has done with many schools along with his other assignments. Sir, how you are able to do so many schools together? What is the mantra behind it?
I'm a consultant now, and luckily I did not have to look for schools. Schools found me.
Yes.
And it was interesting. What you do is you go and have a look at the school, you do an audit, and you realize that which are the areas which need support. Then you revisit the school, talk to the faculty, talk to the principal, and explain the direction where there is need for improvement. And visit the school about 2-3 times a month and do it repeatedly. I don't like to take up schools where you visit twice a year and you just, you just work on a remote. Right. like to do it. Maybe I'm not that intelligent, so I need to be at the place and be able to see actually what is happening and get the feel.
Sir, any advice you want to give to the people now who are taking academics as career?
I think there is always certain dimensions of principle. For example, there can be a sporty principle. There can be a person who is into theater, and or somebody is very creative, and so those dimensions must get exposed. The children should be able to get benefit, and this helps the principal to bond with the children and with the faculty, and the parents see another side of the principal, because they always see principal sitting in a office and talking to them in a PTM. So please get involved and develop your hobbies, and some of those hobbies must be in school so that children get benefit out of it, and there should be a bonding. There's a very interesting saying that there is never a failed child. There is always a failed teacher behind a failed child, or a failed school. In the same way, the bonding, this only explains that the bonding and the relationship with a child is so very important for everyone, including the administrators.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
sir. Thanks for your time. Thank you so much, Mr. Pramod Sharma. I'm sure your valuable advice will really help a lot of youngsters to take up their career in academics, which is required in our country as per our new education policy also. Thank you so much, sir. Please stay tuned to Edu TV to listen to legends from the education industry on our famous program, My Educational Voyage. Thank you, and stay tuned to Edu TV. Thank you. And again, viewers, thank you so much. Because of your love, we have crossed over 2.5 lakh viewership. Thank you so much, everyone.